bleeding. Help me. My fingers shook so badly I could barely type. Blood from the gash on my forehead kept dripping onto the screen, making it hard to see Layla's contact. My older sister, the only person who'd understand, the only person who could get me out of this. But I hit the wrong name. Subscribe to Area More Stories and like this store. This helped the story reach to more. Thank you. The response came back in seconds. Location. Now. Not Layla's voice. Not Layla's number. A stranger. I just texted a wrong number while bleeding out in my locked dorm room, and the person on the other end wasn't asking questions. They were already moving. My left arm hung useless at my side, the shoulder dislocated when Dante had slammed me against the desk. That was before he'd shoved my head into the mirror. Before the glass had shattered across my natural curls like glitter made of razors. The white blouse I'd worn to our study session was soaked through, crimson blooming across the fabric like some sick watercolor painting. My afro, usually my crown, was matted with blood on one side. I could feel it running down my temple, warm and sticky, dripping onto my collarbone. I'd shoved my desk chair under the doorknob. Pathetic. Like that would stop him. "Kiara, baby, open the door." Dante's voice came through the wood, syrupy sweet. The same voice that used to whisper poetry in the library. The same voice that had been screaming at me 10 minutes ago about how I'd embarrassed him in front of his boys. Bang! His fist hit the door, and I flinched so hard my injured shoulder screamed in protest. "You know I didn't mean to hurt you. You make me crazy sometimes. You know that. I saw how you looked at that TA today. Don't play stupid with me." Crash. Something heavy hit the door. My desk lamp, maybe. Or the bookend I'd left on the hallway shelf. "You think you're so smart, so special with your scholarships in your dean's list. But you're mine, Kiara. You don't smile at other men. You don't even look at other men." His voice cracked on the last word, shifting from rage back to that wounded boy tone that used to make me feel guilty. Used to, 8 months. That's how long I'd been with Dante Freeman. 8 months since he'd approached me in the campus library with that shy smile and those warm brown eyes. The first time he grabbed my wrist too hard was week 3. "Just playing," he'd said. The first time he shoved me was month 2. "You walked into me," he'd claimed. The first time he hit me was month 5. And I stayed. God help me, I stayed because he cried. Because he said his father used to beat him. Because I thought I could love the violence out of him. My phone buzzed. 2847 Campus Heights, room 304. "What floor? Armed?" My thumb hovered over the screen. This wasn't Layla. The profile picture was just a black circle. No name. Just a number I'd never seen before. I should have apologized, told him it was a mistake. But something in that objective response, the immediate demand for tactical information, made me answer honestly. "3rd floor. He has a knife. Please hurry. Please don't call campus security. His cousin works there. Kiara, I'm counting to 5. You know what happens at 5. 1. I'd learned what happens at 5. Last time he'd broken my laptop. The time before, my phone. 2 weeks ago, he'd thrown my textbooks out the 3rd-story window. 2. The phone buzzed again. 7 minutes. Stay low. Away from door. 3. Who was this person? Why were they helping me? And why did part of me believe they actually would? 4. The doorframe cracked. The cheap student housing lock wasn't meant to withstand a 6'1" athlete who played linebacker for the university team. I'd tried calling campus security last month when Dante had cornered me in the parking garage. Officer Martinez had shown up, taken one look at Dante in his varsity jacket, and asked me if I'd been drinking. "Sometimes girls get emotional after parties," he'd said, while Dante stood there with his arm around my shoulders, squeezing just hard enough to hurt. Martinez was Dante's cousin. Sexual harassment policy is a joke when the abuser was a star player. The counseling center had a 3-week wait list. And the local police? They'd laugh at a domestic dispute between college kids. I was alone, or I had been, until I'd texted a wrong number. The response came through as the doorframe splintered. 6 minutes. I see building. Stay alive. Not hang in there. Not I'm calling 911. Stay alive. Like this was a military extraction. Like I was a hostage worth saving. Who the hell had I texted? 5. The door didn't just open, it exploded inward. The chair skittered across the floor. Dante filled the doorway, his chest heaving, his eyes wild. But it wasn't rage I saw on his face anymore. It was ownership. There you are, baby. He stepped over the broken wood, glass crunching under his Jordans. Why you gotta make me do this? Why you gotta make me chase you? He lunged for the phone in my right hand. I pulled back, but he was faster, bigger, always faster. His fingers clamped around my injured shoulder, and the world went white with pain. I screamed, raw and broken and animal. He ripped the phone from my hand, scrolling through the messages, his face contorting. Who is this? Who the fuck is this? Wrong number, I gasped. I was trying to text Layla. His open palm caught my cheek hard enough that I tasted copper. My head snapped sideways, vision blurring. I hit the floor hard, my knees slamming into the scattered textbooks and broken glass. Blood from my split lip joined the blood from my forehead, and I thought, this is it. This is how I die. Not in a car accident, not from some disease, from the hands of a boy I trusted. A boy who'd quoted Langston Hughes to me. A boy who'd held my hand during Black Panther and cried at the ending. The same hands that were now dragging me up by my hair. You need to learn, Dante said, his voice eerily calm now as he unbuckled his belt. You need to understand that when I say you're mine, I mean it. Your body, your phone, your attention, all mine. He pulled the leather free with a sharp whisper of sound. This is for your own good, Kiara, to help you remember. I remember thinking that somewhere, in some other universe, another version of me had never gone to that library, had never smiled back at him, had listened to the small voice that had warned me his attention felt less like love and monitoring more like. That's when we both heard it. Car doors, multiple, heavy synchronized slams like a SWAT team deployment. Then footsteps, deliberate, unhurried, climbing the exterior metal stairs to the 3rd floor. Dante froze, belt still in hand. The hell? My phone, abandoned on the floor, buzzed one final time. I couldn't see the screen from where I was pressed against the wall, but I knew what it said. I'm here. The door didn't open. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, scratched, dented, but standing. The next it was airborne, torn from its hinges with such precision that the metal frame came with it. It hit the opposite hallway wall with a deafening crash that set off car alarms 3 floors down. Dante stumbled backward, his belt falling from nerveless fingers. What the? But it wasn't him I was looking at anymore. They entered like smoke given human form. First through the door, a mountain of a man in all black, easily 6'3" of pure muscle and controlled violence. His eyes swept the room with tactical precision, cataloging threats, exits, weapons, before settling on Dante with the cold interest of a butcher eyeing meat. 2 more men flanked the doorway, their suits immaculate despite having just destroyed university property. Silent, watchful, deadly. But it was the 4th man who made my breath stop. He wasn't particularly tall, maybe 5'10", but he didn't need to be. The room bent around him like gravity itself had shifted. His charcoal suit was tailored with surgical precision, the collar unbuttoned just enough to reveal intricate black ink crawling up his throat. His dark hair was slicked back, not a strand out of place. His eyes found mine first, dark, calculating, impossibly cold, and for a heartbeat, I saw him assess my injuries with the detachment of a surgeon, the dislocated shoulder, the blood matting my afro, the split lip, the terror. Then those eyes slid to Dante, and the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. He didn't speak, didn't need to. Just a slight tilt of his head, barely perceptible, and the mountain of a man moved. Dae-Hyun. I'd learn his name later, but in that moment, he was just salvation in human form. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stepping between me and Dante like a living wall. His presence alone made Dante take another step back, all that linebacker bravado evaporating like steam. Ms. Bennett, his voice was a rumble, surprisingly gentle. I'm Dae-Hyun, We have a medical team waiting downstairs. May I assist you? He didn't grab me, didn't demand, just extended one massive hand, palm up, waiting for permission. I took it. The relief that flooded through me was so intense it almost hurt. My legs nearly gave out, but Dae-Hyun caught me with practiced ease, supporting my weight without jostling my injured shoulder. His movements were slow, telegraphed, giving me time to adjust. Behind us, I heard Dante find his voice. This is my girlfriend. This is private property. You can't just... The man in the charcoal suit moved. I didn't even see it happen. 1 second he was standing in the doorway, the next his hand was around Dante's throat, lifting him onto his toes. Not choking, just controlling. Dante's eyes bulged, his fingers scrabbling uselessly at the iron grip. My name is Min-ho Kim, the man said softly, almost gently, his faint Korean accent making each word precise as a scalpel. This woman texted me for help. I've come to provide it. Dae-Hyun guided me toward the door, his hand steady on my good arm. As we passed Min-ho and Dante, I caught the faintest whisper. If you contact her again, if you so much as think her name, they will never find your body. Do you understand me, mister? I didn't hear Dante's response. Didn't need to. Dae-Hyun was already guiding me through the hallway, where a crowd of students had gathered, phones out, mouths open. Someone was crying. Someone else was calling 911. Too late, always too late, but not this time. This time someone had answered when I called for help. This time I wasn't alone. In the parking lot, a black Lamborghini idled, its windows tinted to mirror darkness. An older Korean man in wire-rimmed glasses stood beside it, medical bag already open. Ms. Bennett, I'm Dr. Park. Let's stabilize that shoulder. The back seat had been converted into a mobile treatment station. As Dr. Park gently manipulated my shoulder back into place, I found my voice. Why did you come? You don't know me. The door opened and Min-ho slid in beside me, not across from me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and sharp. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he watched Dr. Park work with those calculating eyes like he was cataloging every wince, every sharp intake of breath. When Dr. Park finished wrapping my shoulder and moved to examine the cut on my forehead, Min-ho finally spoke. You texted the wrong number. I know, I whispered. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, his voice cut through mine like a blade through silk. Fate doesn't make mistakes. The car pulled away from Campus Heights. Through the tinted window, I caught a glimpse of Dante on his knees in the parking lot, held down by two men in dark suits. Students crowded the windows above, phones out, recording everything. Min-ho followed my gaze. They'll delete those videos. This never happened. How can you just... I can do many things, Miss Bennett. He turned those cold eyes on me fully for the first time, and I felt pinned like a butterfly to a board. The question is, what will you do now? I didn't understand. I don't know what you mean. You're free of him, but freedom isn't free. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Everything has a price. My heart hammered against my ribs. What do you want from me? Min-ho leaned back, his fingers drumming once against his knee, the only sign of anything resembling emotion. We'll discuss terms when you're healed. For now, you're under my protection. The way he said protection made it sound less like safety and more like ownership. Dr. Park closed his medical bag. She needs rest, Min-ho, and x-rays. She'll get both. Min-ho's eyes never left mine. At my penthouse, where I can ensure nothing touches her again. The car turned onto the highway, leaving campus, leaving my entire life behind. I should have been terrified, should have demanded to be let out, should have asked 1,000 questions. But all I could think about was the way Min-ho had looked at Dante, the way his hand had moved faster than thought, the way he'd said my name like he already owned it. What's the price? I asked again, my voice barely audible over the engine's purr. Min-ho's smile widened, sharp as broken glass. Get well to find out. Miss Bennett? The penthouse was a cage made of glass and steel, 60 floors above the city where nobody could hear you scream. I woke up in a bed that cost more than my tuition, wrapped in sheets with a thread count I couldn't pronounce. My shoulder had been properly set, wrapped in a professional brace that made the campus health center look like a medieval torture chamber. Someone had cleaned the blood from my hair, changed me into silk pajamas that whispered against my skin like secrets. My phone was gone. Panic hit me like ice water. I lurched out of bed, my bare feet hitting cold marble, and that's when I saw him. Dae-Hyun stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, motionless as a statue, his hands clasped behind his back. He didn't turn around. "Ms. Bennett, you're awake. Dr. Park will want to check your vitals." "Where's my phone?" My voice came out raw, broken. "I need to call my sister, Layla. She'll be worried sick. She'll think your sister has been notified that you're safe." "Notified?" I moved toward him, anger cutting through the fear. "I need to talk to her. Now." "That's not possible at this time." The words were polite. The tone was final. I was halfway across the room when the bedroom door opened and Minho stepped through, dressed in different clothes now. Black slacks, white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, those tattoos climbing his throat like accusations. He carried a tray, coffee, toast, fruit cut into perfect geometric shapes. "You should eat," he said, setting the tray on the nightstand. "Your body needs fuel to heal." "I need my phone. I need to call my sister." "Your phone is evidence. The police will need it." "You said not to call the police. You said—" "I said campus security wouldn't help you. I never said anything about the police." His eyes met mine, unreadable. "Dante Freeman is currently in custody. 4 officers witnessed him resisting arrest. Unfortunately, he fell, several times." The casual way he said it made my stomach twist. "I want to leave." "You're not a prisoner, Kiara." "Then give me my phone and let me walk out that door." Something flickered across his face. Amusement, maybe, or respect. "Your phone will be returned once the photos have been documented. As for leaving," he gestured toward the windows, "you're welcome to try, but your sister is currently in my lobby, and my security won't let her up without my permission." My blood ran cold. "What did you just say?" Layla Bennett, 26 years old, works at Community Legal Aid, drives a 2015 Honda Civic with a broken taillight. She's been here for 3 hours demanding to see you. He knew everything. How long had he been watching? How much did he know about my life, my family, my— Let her up. Now. Not until we establish some ground rules. Minho moved closer, and I forced myself not to step back. "Your ex-boyfriend has friends. Friends who think you're a liar. Friends who play for the same team, party at the same houses, protect each other like brothers. You go back to that campus, back to that life, and they will make you pay for what happened to Dante. So you're keeping me here? For my own good?" The words tasted like ash, like every justification Dante had ever given me. That's what he used to say, that he was protecting me, that he knew what was best. For the first time, Minho's composure cracked, his jaw tightened, and when he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I am not him." "Then prove it. Let me see my sister." The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled taut. Then Minho pulled out his phone, pressed a button. "Send her up." I heard Layla before I saw her, her voice echoing through the penthouse, fierce and furious and familiar. Then she was there, bursting through the door, and I was in her arms, both of us crying, both of us holding on like the world was ending. "I thought you were dead," she sobbed into my hair. "When you didn't come home, when you didn't answer, I thought, I'm okay. But over her shoulder, I saw Minho watching us, and I wondered if I was lying. Because the man who'd saved me knew where my sister worked, knew what car she drove, knew things no stranger should know. And I was starting to realize that wrong numbers didn't just happen, not to men like Minho Kim. He'd been watching me long before I'd ever texted him for help, protecting her. Subscribe to see what Kiara decides. Her choice will change everything. Dr. Park had left an hour ago, muttering something about fractures healing cleaner than dislocations. The penthouse was quiet now, too quiet, with only the distant hum of the city 40 floors below and the soft footfalls of Dae-Hyun patrolling somewhere in the outer rooms. I sat on the edge of the leather sofa, my arm freshly wrapped and suspended in a sling that probably cost more than my entire semester's textbooks. The pain meds Dr. Park had given me made everything feel distant and underwater, but they couldn't dull the hyper-awareness I felt when Minho entered the room. He'd removed his suit jacket, rolled his sleeves to his elbows. "Dr. Park says the wrap needs adjusting," he said, his accent softer now without an audience. "May I?" I nodded because my voice had apparently fled the moment I noticed the ink. The tattoos I'd glimpsed on his neck didn't stop there. They continued down both forearms in intricate black patterns. Geometric precision mixed with traditional imagery. Dragons, cherry blossoms, Korean script I couldn't read. The design was deliberate, expensive, and absolutely mesmerizing against his pale skin. He knelt in front of me, careful not to crowd my space, and began unwinding the medical wrap with practiced efficiency. His fingers were surprisingly gentle for hands I'd watched lift a grown man off his feet. "You've done this before," I said quietly. "Many times." He didn't elaborate, didn't need to. As he worked, his forearm brushed against my brown skin, and something electric shot through me. Not pain, not fear. Something I had no business feeling for a man who'd walked into my life through a shattered door. He noticed. Of course he noticed. Those calculating eyes missed nothing. "The dragon," I whispered, watching the black ink serpent coil around his wrist as his hands moved. "What does it mean?" Minho paused, his thumb resting against my pulse point. Whether intentional or accidental, I couldn't tell. Protection, power, the willingness to burn the world for what's yours. The intensity in his voice made my breath catch. He resumed wrapping, each rotation of the bandage bringing his hands closer to my shoulder, his body closer to mine. The contrast was striking, his pale, tattooed skin against my deep brown, his controlled precision against my trembling exhaustion. "You're safe here, Kiara." My name in his mouth sounded like a promise and a threat. "Nothing touches you without going through me first." "Why?" The word escaped before I could stop it. "You don't know me. I'm nobody. Just a wrong number." His hands stilled completely. Those dark eyes lifted to meet mine, and for the first time since he'd appeared in my dorm room, the cold calculation cracked wide open. "My sister's name was Ji-yeon," he said softly. "She was 19, a student like you. She texted for help one night while her boyfriend—" He stopped, jaw tightening. No one came. By the time I found her, it was too late. My heart fractured. "Minho, I'm so—" "Don't!" His fingers tightened fractionally on my arm. Not enough to hurt, just enough to ground us both. "I couldn't save her, but I can save you." The air between us felt charged, dangerous. His face was inches from mine, close enough that I could see the faint scar above his eyebrow, smell the subtle cologne that probably cost more than my rent. "You already did," I whispered. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor, a glimpse of the man beneath the monster. His thumb traced an unconscious circle on my wrist, right over my pulse, and I wondered if he could feel how fast my heart was racing. "Subscribe to see what happens when protection becomes something more," his eyes seemed to say, though his lips stayed silent. The mark of the dragon wasn't just ink on skin. It was a claim, a promise written in the space between his tattoos and my scars, in the careful way his hands lingered on my arm even after the wrapping was done. I should have been afraid, should have run. Instead, I leaned in. I thought I knew Dante Freeman, thought I'd mapped every corner of his violence, cataloged every lie, understood the full depth of what he was capable of. I was wrong. 3 weeks after Minho had pulled me from that dorm room, after Dr. Park had set my shoulder and stitched the gash on my forehead, after I'd started sleeping without nightmares for the first time in 8 months, Dae-Hyun appeared at my new apartment with a manila folder that made my blood run cold. "Ms. Bennett," he said, his usual stoic expression cracked by something that looked almost like pity. "Mr. Kim needs you to see this." Inside were printouts, bank statements, email chains, screenshots of encrypted chat logs, and there, in digital black and white, was Dante's secret life laid bare. He wasn't just an abusive boyfriend. He was a data broker. My hands shook as I flipped through page after page of evidence. Student ID numbers, social security digits, credit card information, names, addresses, class schedules, all harvested from the university's database, where Dante had a work-study position in the registrar's office. But it wasn't random theft. He'd been selling to the Jade Serpents, a rival syndicate that had been trying to muscle into Minho's territory for years. Student data meant blackmail material, gambling debts, drug habits, trust fund kids with wealthy parents, a gold mine of leverage, and I'd been his cover, the perfect, studious girlfriend who made him look stable, trustworthy, harmless. "How long?" I whispered. Dae-Hyun's jaw tightened. 18 months, since before he met you. The room tilted. Everything I thought I knew about us, about why he'd pursued me, why he'd isolated me from Layla, why he'd been so controlling about my phone, my schedule, my every movement. It was all strategy. I wasn't his girlfriend. I was his alibi. "There's more," Dae-Hyun said quietly, pulling out a final document. It was a contract, a hit contract, with my name on it. The Jade Serpents had paid Dante $50,000 to neutralize the Kim asset, me. They'd assumed Minho had recruited me, that I was part of his operation now. And Dante, desperate and cornered after losing me, had taken the job. The night he'd broken my arm wasn't passion. It was a failed execution. "Mr. Kim has asked me to inform you," Dae-Hyun continued, his voice carefully neutral, "that Mr. Freeman has been located. He's requesting a meeting with you. Claims he has information about Jade Serpent operations that he'll only share with you directly." "It's a trap," I said. "Obviously." A ghost of a smile crossed Dae-Hyun's face. "But Mr. Kim believes you should decide how to handle this. He won't force you into hiding. He won't treat you like property to be protected." I thought about Dante's hands around my throat, about the belt, the mirror, the countless times he'd made me believe I was crazy, oversensitive, provoking him, about how he'd weaponized my compassion, my education, my dreams, turned them all into tools of control. And now he wanted to use me one last time. I looked up at Dae-Hyun, feeling something cold and sharp crystallize in my chest. Not fear, not anymore. Certainty. "Tell Minho I'll meet him," I said, "but on my terms, my location, and I'm not going in unarmed." Dae-Hyun's smile widened just a fraction. "He said you'd say that. Training starts tomorrow." The folder sat on my table long after he left, Dante's face staring up at me from a surveillance photo. He looked smaller somehow, less dangerous. Just a mediocre man who tried to make himself powerful by breaking a woman who threatened to outshine him. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd sent me to Minho Kim, and Minho didn't save victims. He forged weapons. Layla Bennett had never broken into anywhere in her life, but desperation makes criminals of us all. She'd been calling Kiara's phone for 3 days straight. 3 days of voicemails that went unanswered. 3 days of texts left unread. 3 days of her baby sister being held by a man whose name alone made seasoned criminals go quiet. Minho Kim. The penthouse security was impressive. She'd give him that. Keycard access, biometric scanners, 2 guards in the lobby who looked like they ate nails for breakfast. But Layla had something they didn't account for. A sister's rage and a maintenance uniform she'd stolen from the service entrance. The elevator ride to the top floor felt like ascending into hell. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she gripped the taser she'd bought from that sketchy pawn shop on 5th Street. It wasn't much, but it was something. Kiara was up here somewhere, probably locked in some room, probably terrified, probably wondering why her big sister hadn't come for her yet. "Well, I'm here now, baby girl." The penthouse doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Layla stepped into a space that looked like it belonged in Architectural Digest. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Marble floors so polished she could see her reflection. Art that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. And then she heard it. Bang, bang, bang. Gunshots. Layla's blood turned to ice. She was too late. God, she was too late. She sprinted toward the sound, taser raised, ready to die if it meant saving Kiara. Ready to... She skidded to a halt in the doorway of what appeared to be a private shooting range. Kiara stood in a shooter's stance, her natural afro pulled back with a silk scarf, wearing designer athleisure that probably cost more than Layla's car payment. Her injured arm, the one that had been dislocated and broken, was wrapped in professional-grade support tape as she held a Glock 19 with both hands. Beside her stood Dae-Hyun, the mountain of a man who'd been in the photos Layla had found during her frantic online stalking. His voice was low and patient as he adjusted Kiara's grip. "Breathe out as you squeeze. Don't pull. Squeeze." Bang! The target's center mass acquired another hole. "Better," Dae-Hyun said. "Again." "Kiara?" Layla's voice came out strangled. Her sister spun, gun immediately lowering to a safe position. Muscle memory that hadn't existed 4 days ago. Kiara's eyes went wide. "Layla, how did I what? How did I find you? How did I break into a crime lord's penthouse to save my baby sister from being held hostage?" Layla's voice climbed with each word. "The better question is, what the hell are you doing?" Dae-Hyun stepped forward, his massive frame somehow non-threatening. "Ms. Bennett, I'm going to need you to lower the taser." "I'm not lowering anything until someone explains why my sister is playing Lara Croft with an actual gun." Kiara set the Glock down on the counter with practiced care and pulled off her ear protection. When she looked at Layla, there was something different in her eyes, something harder, something that hadn't been there when they'd last spoken. "I'm not being held hostage." "Lay." "Then what do you call this?" "I call it learning how to make sure Dante, or anyone like him, never touches me again." The words hit Layla like a physical blow. She'd spent 3 days imagining her sister as a victim, as someone who needed saving. But the woman standing in front of her, holding a weapon like she was born to it, didn't look like she needed saving. She looked dangerous. "Minho offered me a choice," Kiara continued, her voice steady. "I could hide, or I could learn to fight. I chose to fight." Behind them, a door opened. Minho emerged, immaculate as always in a charcoal suit, his dark eyes taking in the scene with that unsettling calm. "Ms. Bennett," he said, addressing Layla, "I've been expecting you. Your sister speaks highly of your determination." He glanced at Kiara with something that might have been respect. "It runs in the family, I see." Layla looked between them, her baby sister, the Mafia boss, and the bodyguard who was teaching Kiara things their mother would faint over. This wasn't the rescue she'd planned. This wasn't anything she'd planned. "What have you done to her?" Layla whispered. Minho's expression didn't change. "I gave her what no one else would. Power." Kiara picked up the gun again, checked the chamber with frightening competence, and met her sister's eyes. "He gave me a choice, Layla. For the first time in 8 months, someone gave me a choice." Subscribe to see what Layla decides. Like if you understand why Kiara chose to fight back. The rooftop garden shouldn't exist. Not 30 stories above the city, not in the middle of a building that housed what I now knew was Minho's empire. But here it was, a private sanctuary of cherry blossoms and stone lanterns, the Seoul skyline glittering like scattered diamonds beyond the glass barriers. I shouldn't be here either, but Minho's hand was warm against the small of my back, guiding me toward a low table set for 2. 3 weeks since that night, 3 weeks since Dante, 3 weeks of physical therapy, of Layla's worried calls, of Dae-Hyun teaching me how to break a man's wrist. 3 weeks of Minho appearing at unexpected moments, checking my stitches, sending Dr. Park for follow-ups, leaving books on my nightstand in the penthouse guest room I still hadn't left. "You've been avoiding me," Minho said, pouring amber liquid into delicate glasses. "Not a question. Never a question with him. You've been busy. I watched the city pulse below us, alive and indifferent. Running an empire and all. Not too busy for this." The way he said it made my breath catch. Like I was the empire. Like everything else was just maintenance. I took the glass he offered, our fingers brushing. His tattoos disappeared beneath his rolled sleeves, but I'd memorized their path by now. The dragon that curled from his wrist to his shoulder. The characters inked across his ribs that Dae-Hyun had told me meant, never again. "Why did you come that night?" The question had been burning in my throat for weeks. "You don't know me. You could have called the police. You could have ignored it." Minho was silent for so long, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he set down his glass with careful precision. "I had a sister, Min Seo." His voice was different now, stripped of its usual controlled calm. Raw. She was 19, beautiful, smart. Dating a boy our father approved of? The past tense sat between us like broken glass. He was from a good family, respectful, or so we thought. Minho's jaw tightened. She called me one night, 3 in the morning, said she needed help, said he'd locked her in his apartment, said she was scared. My chest constricted. I told her I'd come in the morning. I had a meeting, an important deal closing at dawn. He laughed, but it was a sound without humor. I told my baby sister to wait because I had a meeting. Minho. They found her body 2 days later. He'd beaten her to death and left her in the Han River. His eyes met mine and I saw it, the guilt that lived in him like a second skeleton. She called for help and I told her to wait. I reached across the table without thinking, my hand covering his. His fingers twitched, then turned, lacing through mine. When your text came through, wrong number, desperate, bleeding, I saw her message again. Appa, I need help. And I knew. His thumb traced circles on my wrist. I knew I would burn the whole world down before I let another woman die calling into the void. I'm not her, I whispered. No. His other hand came up, cupping my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. You're Kiara Bennett. You survived, you fought, and you're going to graduate with honors, while Dante Freeman learns what happens to men who raise their hands to what's mine. What's mine? The words should have scared me, should have sent me running back to Layla's protests and Dr. Park's concerned looks. Instead, I leaned into his palm and thought about how wrong numbers could save lives, how guilt could become purpose, how a Mafia boss could look at a bleeding college student and see his sister's ghost, and choose this time to answer. Like this, if you believe some debts can only be paid forward, I said, echoing the social media posts that had been tracking my story. Minho smiled, a real smile, rare and devastating. Subscribe to see what I do to Dante when Kiara finally says yes. Yes to what? His eyes darkened with promise. Everything. The soul skyline watched us lean closer, two broken people finding wholeness in the spaces between vengeance and healing, between a text message sent in desperation and a man who'd sworn never to be too late again. The text came through at 2:47 a.m., not to my phone, to Minho's, a video, 12 seconds long. Layla, my sister, bound to a chair in what looked like the old campus library basement, her mouth gagged, her eyes wide with fury more than fear. Blood trickled from her temple where someone had struck her. Behind her, Dante's voice, "You took something that belongs to me. Time to make a trade." Minho's face didn't change as he watched the video. Didn't flinch, didn't rage. He simply replayed it 3 times, his dark eyes cataloging every detail, the angle of the light, the echo in Dante's voice, the specific shade of concrete behind Layla's chair. "Memorial Library," he said quietly. "Sub-level 3, restricted archives section." Dae-Hyun was already moving, pulling up building schematics on his tablet. 2 other men I'd come to know over the past 3 weeks, Jun and Mikhail, checked their weapons with the casual efficiency of men who'd done this 1,000 times before. "We go in at 400, 4-point entry. Suppressed fire only if..." "No." My voice cut through the tactical planning like a blade. Every head in the room turned toward me. "I'm going in first." Minho's expression remained neutral, but I learned to read the microtells, the slight tension in his jaw, the way his fingers stilled on his phone screen. "Kiara, he wants me. If you storm in there with your entire operation, he'll panic. He'll hurt her." I stepped closer, holding his gaze. "But if I walk in alone, he'll think he's won. He'll get careless." "Absolutely not." For the first time since I'd known him, Minho's voice carried heat. "This is what he wants. To isolate you, to regain control." "I know." I reached for the Glock 19 Dae-Hyun had been teaching me to handle for the past 2 weeks. My hands didn't shake anymore when I held it. "That's exactly why it'll work." Layla was in that basement because of me, because I'd escaped, because I'd found protection Dante couldn't touch, because I'd started building a life that didn't include cowering in corners and making myself small. He'd taken my sister to remind me that I was never really free. He was wrong. Minho studied me for a long moment. I watched the calculation happening behind his eyes, weighing risks, running scenarios, fighting every instinct that told him to lock me in the penthouse and handle this himself. Finally, he turned to Dae-Hyun. Give her the vest, comms, and the blade. Dae-Hyun produced a slim tactical vest, Kevlar plates hidden beneath deceptively normal-looking fabric. As he helped me into it, Minho moved closer, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper I'd come to associate with promises he always kept. You walk in, you assess, you keep him talking. His fingers brushed my wrist where a nearly invisible comms device sat like a bracelet. But the moment, the absolute second, things go wrong, you drop and we come through those walls. Understood? I nodded. He reached up, his palm cupping my face with a gentleness that still surprised me. His thumb traced the scar on my cheekbone, the one Dante had given me that night in my dorm. He doesn't get to touch you again, Minho said softly. Ever. I know. I turned my head slightly, pressing a kiss to his palm. Because this time, I'm not the one who's trapped. At 3:45 a.m., I stood outside Memorial Library's service entrance, alone, armed, and absolutely done being afraid. The door opened before I could knock. Dante stood in the shadows, that familiar smile playing at his lips, the one that used to make my heart race. Now it just made my trigger finger itch. There's my girl, he said. I knew you'd come. I stepped inside, letting the darkness swallow me. In my ear, so faint only I could hear it, Minho's voice. We have you. 30 seconds behind. The university library was empty at midnight, just how Dante liked it when he did his business, selling student data to the highest bidder, running his little empire from the shadows, while everyone thought he was just another athlete grinding through finals. He didn't hear us come in. Minho had wanted to send Dae-Hyun, had argued for an hour that I didn't need to be here, that this wasn't my fight anymore. But he was wrong. This had always been my fight. I just needed time to learn how to win it. 3 months. That's how long it had been since Minho kicked down my dorm room door. 3 months of physical therapy for my shoulder. 3 months of learning that protection didn't mean weakness. It meant having the right people in your corner. 3 months of Minho teaching me that survival wasn't enough. I deserved to thrive. And 3 months of planning this moment. Dante looked up from his laptop when my footsteps echoed across the marble floor. His face went through a journey. Confusion, then recognition, then that flash of possessive rage I knew so well. Kiara. He stood, that same manipulative smile spreading across his face. Baby, I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk about... Sit down, Dante. My voice didn't shake, didn't waver. The Kiara he'd broken would have flinched at his movement, would have apologized for existing. But I died in that dorm room 3 months ago. The woman standing here was someone new, someone forged in blood and glass, and the realization that I'd never be a victim again. He sat. From the shadows near the philosophy section, I felt Minho's presence. He'd promised to let me handle this, promised to only intervene if Dante tried something stupid. But I could feel his eyes on me, not controlling, not possessive, watching, trusting. You sold my information, I said, pulling out my phone. Layla had done the digital forensics, tracing Dante's transactions back 6 months. My social security number, my student ID, my class schedule. You sold it to Minho's competitors for $3,000. Dante's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. I have the receipts, the bank transfers, the encrypted messages. I stepped closer, and this time he was the one who flinched. You weren't just abusing me, Dante. You were trafficking student data. You put a target on my back because you were too stupid to know who you were selling to. That's not... I didn't... But here's the thing. I leaned against the table, casual, controlled. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to make you an offer. His eyes narrowed. Behind him, I saw Minho shift slightly, curiosity replacing concern. You're going to turn yourself in to the FBI. You're going to give them everything. Names, transactions, clients, every piece of data you sold, every student you put at risk. I pulled out a business card, sliding it across the table. This is Special Agent Morrison. She's expecting your call tomorrow at 9 a.m. And if I don't? I smiled. Not the scared girl smile Dante remembered. The smile I'd learned from watching Min-ho negotiate with people who thought they had leverage. Then Min-ho stops being patient. And trust me, Dante, you don't want to know what he does when his patience runs out. Dante grabbed the card with shaking hands. He looked past me, finally seeing Min-ho emerge from the shadows. The Mafia boss didn't say a word. Didn't need to. His presence was threat enough. We're done here, I said, turning away. Don't ever contact me again. Don't say my name. Don't even think about me. Because next time, I won't be this generous. Min-ho fell into step beside me as we left the library. The cold November air hit my face, sharp and cleansing. He didn't speak until we reached the black Mercedes, Dae-Hyun already behind the wheel. You didn't need me in there, Min-ho said quietly. There was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Not disappointment, pride. No, I agreed, meeting his dark eyes. I didn't need your protection, but I wanted your presence. There's a difference. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. The ink on his knuckles pressed against my brown skin. A contrast that no longer felt dangerous, but powerful. Partnership, he said, testing the word. Partnership, I confirmed. Behind us, through the library windows, I could see Dante still sitting at that table, the business card clutched in his fist. He'd make the call. He'd face justice. Not because Min-ho had threatened him, but because I'd given him no other choice. The debt was paid. But the story? The story was just beginning. The sun hit my graduation cap at just the right angle, making the tassels shimmer like gold thread. I adjusted the collar of my gown, royal blue with gold trim, the university colors I'd bled for in more ways than one. My natural afro was bigger than ever today, picked out to perfection, crowned with baby's breath that Layla had woven in this morning, while crying happy tears into my shoulder. Kiara Bennett. My name echoed across the outdoor pavilion, and 2,000 people I'd never met started clapping. But I only heard 3 sounds that mattered. Layla's scream of pride from the front row, so loud the dean actually paused. The slow, measured clap from the back, steady as a heartbeat, controlled as everything he did. And Dae-Hyun's low whistle, the kind that made security guards nervous. I walked across that stage with my back straight and my head high, the same way I learned to walk through Min-ho's world. No hesitation, no apology, just presence. The dean shook my hand, and as the photographer's flash went off, I caught a glimpse of them in the back row. Min-ho in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 4 years of tuition, his dark eyes tracking my every movement like I was the only person in this crowd. Dae-Hyun beside him, arms crossed, that ghost of a smile he only showed when he was genuinely proud. They didn't belong here, in this world of proud parents and crying grandmothers and kids who'd survived on ramen and student loans. But then again, neither did I anymore. I wasn't the girl who'd texted a wrong number 18 months ago. I wasn't the girl who'd thought love meant staying quiet when someone hurt you. I wasn't the girl who'd believed institutions would save her. I was the girl who'd learned to save herself. My diploma felt heavy in my hands. Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering, magna cum laude, with a job offer from a cybersecurity firm that had no idea their newest hire had spent the last year learning security from a Korean mafia boss who took data protection very literally. As I descended the stage stairs, Layla rushed forward, nearly tackling me in a hug that made my ribs protest. She'd forgiven Min-ho eventually, took her 9 months and one very tense dinner where she'd held a steak knife the entire time. But she'd forgiven him because he'd done what no one else had. He'd answered when I called. I'm so proud of you, she whispered into my hair. Over her shoulder, I watched Min-ho and Dae-Hyun make their way through the crowd. People parted without realizing why. That's how power moves, silent, inevitable, making space where there was none. Min-ho stopped in front of me, and for just a moment, that cold mask cracked. Pride, raw and real in mine. Congratulations, Ms. Bennett. He handed me a small black box. Inside was a key, white gold, delicate, with a small diamond embedded in the bow. Not to a car or an apartment, to his penthouse, to his world, to the future he was asking me to build with him. "You've graduated from more than just university," he said quietly, stepping closer until I could see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes. "The question is, will you graduate from my guest room to somewhere more permanent?" My breath caught. 18 months ago, I'd been bleeding on a dorm room floor. Now I was standing in front of a man who'd seen me at my most broken and somehow decided I was worth rebuilding alongside. I closed my fingers around the key and smiled. The kind of smile that used to belong to a girl who thought love meant enduring pain. Now it belonged to a woman who'd learned that sometimes love arrives through a wrong number, wearing a charcoal suit and carrying violence like a promise. "I will burn the world before I let anyone hurt you again." Kiara survived because someone answered her call when the world went silent. She fought through blood, betrayal, and broken bones to stand here today. Don't be the one who ignores her story. Subscribe and show your love to the Bennett sisters. Like, if you believe every survivor deserves a crown,